Imagine an animal the size of your finger that punches so hard it boils the water around its fist. Not metaphorically, literally. The water boils. That's not a superpower I made up for a comic book. That's a Tuesday for the mantis shrimp, a creature so utterly unlike anything else on this planet that scientists have spent decades just trying to understand one part of it at a time. And here's the thing, the punch, that's just the beginning. This animal also has eyes that see colors you and I are physically incapable of perceiving. It has a club made of a material that engineers are still struggling to reproduce in a lab. It fights like a professional boxer, navigates like a surgeon, and apparently monogamous for life. Everything about the mantis shrimp breaks a rule, and today we're going through all of them. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll genuinely question whether this animal is even real, or whether evolution just got extremely weird one day, and nobody stopped it. Part 01. What even is a mantis shrimp? First things first, let's address the name. Mantis shrimp is, honestly, a bit of a lie. They are not shrimp. They are not mantis insects either. They are stomatopods, a completely separate order of crustaceans that branched off from the rest of the family tree roughly 400 million years ago. To put that in perspective, that's before dinosaurs, before most trees, before vertebrates even finished deciding what to be. There are over 450 known species of stomatopods, and they come in every size and color you can imagine, from drab sandy browns to what I can only describe as someone splashing every crayon from a 128 pack onto a 6-inch crustacean. Some of them look like living jewels. Others look like a reef architect's fever dream. They live in tropical and subtropical ocean waters, in coral reefs, in sandy sea floors, in rocks, in burrows they excavate themselves. They're ambush predators. They sit, they wait, and then, when something comes close enough, they don't hesitate. The two most well-known types are the smashers and the spearers. Smashers have a calcified club, a biological hammer, and they use it to crack open snail shells, crab armor, clam shells, even aquarium glass. Yes, really. Spearers, on the other hand, have sharp, barbed appendages like spears, and they impale fast-moving prey like fish with terrifying precision. But all of them share one thing in common. Whatever they evolved to do, they evolved to be exceptional at it. Now, I need you to keep that in mind as we go deeper, because the mantis shrimp isn't just impressive in one area. It's like evolution sat down, said, what if I just didn't compromise anywhere, and built this creature from scratch? Part 2. The most violent punch in nature. Let's talk about the strike, the thing that made the mantis shrimp famous. The peacock mantis shrimp, one of the most studied species, can accelerate its club appendage at roughly 10,000 Gs. That's 10,000 times the force of gravity. For reference, a Formula One car corners at about 5 Gs. Astronauts during rocket launch experience around 3 Gs. A bullet leaving the barrel of a gun peaks at around 500 Gs. The mantis shrimp hits at 10,000. The strike itself lasts about 2 milliseconds. That is too fast for most high-speed cameras. Scientists had to use equipment developed for ballistics testing just to see it happen. When they finally captured it, they found the club moves at about 23 meters per second, roughly 80 kilometers per hour, from a standstill. That's not swimming speed. That's not jumping speed. That is the speed of a dedicated weapon system. Now here's where physics gets involved in a way that almost sounds made up. When the club moves that fast through water, the pressure in the water around it drops so dramatically that the water itself momentarily vaporizes. This creates tiny bubbles, a phenomenon called cavitation. When those bubbles collapse, which they do almost immediately, they release a second shock wave, a shock wave of heat. That heat reaches temperatures approaching the surface of the sun, briefly, locally, and emits flashes of light. So when the mantis shrimp misses its target, the prey doesn't escape unharmed. The collapsing cavitation bubbles still deliver a shock wave powerful enough to stun or kill. The mantis shrimp has developed a two-hit combo, the mechanical strike and the physics-generated explosion. To be clear, this animal weaponized thermodynamics, and the prey, it never sees it coming. The strike is too fast to react to. The eye can't track it. The nervous system can't process it. You're just gone. Your shell cracked from the outside, your soft tissue shocked from within. Your entire existence ended by a creature that decided to punch water hard enough to create plasma. If you think that's the most impressive part of the mantis shrimp, you are about to be embarrassed by what comes next. Part 03, Eyes that see 16 colors. And it gets weirder. Here's a question. How many color receptors do you have in your eyes? 3. Red, green, and blue. That's it. Everything you've ever seen. Every sunset, every painting, every ocean, every human face, all of it was constructed by your brain from just 3 channels of information. And you probably think that's pretty good. You can see millions of colors, right? The mantis shrimp has 16 types of photoreceptors. 16. And for a long time, scientists assumed that meant it could see an almost infinite number of colors, something so far beyond human perception that we couldn't even imagine it. The popular science story became, mantis shrimp see colors that don't exist to us, entire wavelengths of reality, invisible to every other animal on Earth. And while that's partially true, they do see into ultraviolet and infrared light, wavelengths humans are completely blind to. The full story is actually stranger and more interesting than the headline suggests. When researchers tested how mantis shrimp actually distinguish between colors, they found something unexpected. Despite having 16 receptors, they're not dramatically better than us at distinguishing between similar colors on the visible spectrum. A mantis shrimp would struggle to tell the difference between 2 shades of the same color that we'd separate easily. So what are the 16 receptors actually for? The current best theory is that the mantis shrimp doesn't blend colors the way we do. It doesn't mix signals and average them. Instead, it pattern matches. Each receptor responds to a very specific wavelength, and the shrimp's brain essentially runs those signals in parallel, identifying this wavelength, yes or no, rather than building a blended color image. It's less like a painter mixing colors and more like a rapid spectral scanner. This could allow them to process color information almost instantaneously, at a speed where the brain doesn't need to do complex calculations. In their world, where a predator or a meal can disappear in milliseconds, that processing speed might matter far more than nuance of hue. And there's more. The mantis shrimp's eyes move independently of each other. Each eye can rotate 70 degrees on its own, giving the shrimp a complete picture of its environment without ever needing to move its body. Each eye also has 3 sections, 3 different optical zones, allowing it to see in 3 different directions simultaneously, with depth perception in each zone. It perceives circular polarized light, something no other animal in the world is known to do. And its visual signals communicate along its own body, allowing other mantis shrimp to detect displays that are essentially invisible to predators who can't see those wavelengths. Its eyes are not just better than ours, they're a completely different philosophy of seeing. Part 4. The architecture of a weapon. So we know the punch is devastating, but here's a question that took scientists years to answer properly. Why doesn't the mantis shrimp destroy itself? Think about it. Hitting a crab shell with that level of force, thousands of times over a lifetime, would shatter almost any material we know of. Metal fatigues, bone fractures, carbon fiber splinters. So what is the mantis shrimp's club made of? And why does it survive repeated impacts that would annihilate human-engineered materials? The answer is a masterclass in biological engineering. The club has 4 distinct regions, each with a different structure and purpose. The outermost impact region, the part that actually makes contact, is made of crystalline hydroxyapatite, the same mineral found in your bones and teeth, but arranged in a herringbone pattern that disperses impact energy laterally rather than letting it travel inward. This is fundamentally different from how we usually think about hard materials absorbing shock. Behind that is a periodic region, layers of chitin fibers arranged in a rotating helix pattern, like a stack of plywood where each layer is rotated slightly from the last. This Bulligan structure causes cracks to change direction every time they hit a new layer. A crack that starts going one way gets deflected, then deflected again and again. It can't propagate, it just stops. Then there's an impact absorbing region, and then a ridge region to help the whole structure stay together under lateral stress. The result is a club that absorbs an estimated 70% of impact energy before any damage propagates to the shrimp itself, and the whole structure is self-repairing. After the shrimp molts its exoskeleton, the club rebuilds itself with the same architecture every single time. Engineers and materials scientists from universities across the world have been studying this structure for years, trying to replicate it in body armor, in aerospace components, in helmet design, in protective panels for vehicles. The U.S. military has funded research on it. The results so far suggest that Mantis shrimp-inspired materials could be dramatically more impact-resistant than anything we currently use. The Mantis shrimp designed a better helmet than we have 400 million years before we needed one. Part 5. Behavior, Intelligence, and Social Life. At this point, you might be thinking, okay, it's basically a biological weapon. It's all instinct, right? It's just a predator that evolution optimized to hit things and see things. There's no complexity beyond that. Wrong on almost every level. Mantis shrimp are remarkably complex animals behaviorally. They live in individual burrows, structures they excavate and actively maintain, sometimes spending considerable time and energy on their construction. They return to their burrows. They recognize their burrow and will aggressively defend it against intruders. And this is where things get particularly interesting. They recognize individuals, not just species, not just other mantis shrimp, individual animals that they have seen before. Research has shown they can remember a specific rival from a previous encounter and will behave differently toward that individual compared to a stranger, showing more caution or alternatively more dominance depending on the outcome of the first meeting. That level of individual recognition is associated in most animals with substantial cognitive complexity. You need to form representations of individuals, store them, retrieve them, and compare them to current sensory input. That's not reflex. That's memory-based reasoning. Their combat is also not mindless. When two mantis shrimp encounter each other, typically over a burrow, they engage in a highly ritualized series of threat displays before any physical contact. They will flash their dactyl clubs, spread their body, perform specific postures. Both animals are assessing each other. If one backs down, the fight doesn't happen. Real violence is costly. It risks damaging the club, damaging the eyes, losing a burrow entirely. So the mantis shrimp has evolved to be strategic about when and how it engages. Occasionally, the ritual fails, and they do fight. When they do, they deliver precisely targeted strikes to the tail, which is a well-armored region, a kind of agreed-upon sparring zone that minimizes the chance of killing each other over what is, ultimately, a real estate dispute. And then, the detail that surprises almost everyone, many mantis shrimp are monogamous. Some species form pair bonds that last up to 20 years. They share a burrow. They cooperate on parental care. The female carries the eggs, but the male will take over if needed, and both parents guard the nest. In an animal kingdom where monogamy is relatively rare and often fragile, the mantis shrimp commits. This is a creature that punches hard enough to boil water, sees colors you cannot imagine, and then comes home to the same partner it's been with for 2 decades. The mantis shrimp contains multitudes. Part 6. Why science obsesses over it. The mantis shrimp represents what biologists call an independent evolutionary solution, a case where nature arrived at a highly sophisticated outcome through a completely separate path from anything else we know. Its eyes didn't evolve from vertebrate eyes. Its club didn't evolve from vertebrate bone. Its nervous system processes information differently from ours. Studying it gives us access to alternative answers to questions we thought we already knew. Take the visual system. The mantis shrimp's approach to color processing, running parallel channels rather than blending, has directly influenced research in computer vision and machine learning. If you don't need to blend signals, you can potentially process visual information at far higher speeds. That has real applications in autonomous vehicles, in medical imaging, in any system where speed of visual recognition is critical. The club material is already influencing aerospace engineering and military protective equipment. The herringbone impact region alone has generated dozens of published papers. Researchers are actively attempting to 3D print materials with the Bulligan layered structure at scale, a project that, if successful, could reshape what body armor looks like by the end of this decade. The cavitation phenomenon, the shrimp's accidental plasma generation, has opened research into sonoluminescence, the process by which collapsing bubbles emit light. This has applications in medical ultrasound, in targeted drug delivery, in cancer treatment research. Scientists studying how to focus cavitation energy on tumor cells without harming surrounding tissue cite mantis shrimp biology as an early inspiration. And there's the neuroscience angle. The mantis shrimp's nervous system has to process an enormous quantity of visual information at extraordinary speed and translate it into a mechanical output, the strike, in milliseconds. How it does that How it suppresses the strike mechanism during normal movement but releases it with such precision is a model for understanding fast neural control systems in general. It has implications for prosthetics, for robotics, for understanding how the brain initiates rapid voluntary movements. The mantis shrimp is not just an interesting animal, it is a library of unsolved engineering problems that nature already solved, and we're still reading it. Part 7. Nature's Impossible Animal. Think about what we've covered in this video. A creature with a strike faster than a bullet, powered by a built-in spring mechanism, creating plasma on impact. Eyes with 16 photoreceptors, capable of perceiving ultraviolet and infrared light, processing color through parallel scanning rather than blending. A weapon made from a material that defeats cracks at a structural level that has inspired military-grade armor research. A complex social life with individual recognition, strategic combat rituals, and long-term monogamous pair bonds. None of this was designed. No engineer sat down and planned it. Evolution, blind, undirected, ruthlessly pragmatic, arrived at every single one of those solutions. Because in the environment where the mantis shrimp lives, each one of those traits was necessary to survive, to eat, to not be eaten, to reproduce. And that, I think, is the most staggering part of all of this. Not that the mantis shrimp is weird, but that evolution had 400 million years to iterate on a design and ended up producing something that still outperforms everything we can build in the lab. We like to think we're pretty good at engineering. We've built computers that fit in our pockets. We've sent spacecraft to the edge of the solar system. We've decoded the human genome. But then we look at a 6-inch crustacean that punches thermodynamics into submission and sees wavelengths of light we didn't know existed. And we have to ask ourselves, are we really that far ahead? Or some creatures are much further ahead of us?